I'm thinking that's gonna look pretty good. And I actually ordered a big C clamp spring compressor, but it's not gonna be here for a few days. And I don't wanna lose a few days worth of time to just spend cleaning these heads. So I figured out how to get the keepers out of this. At least I can get them taken apart while I'm waiting for my valve spring compressor to get here. So I've just got a socket that fits on top of this spring keeper. And then I just press down as hard as I can and hit it with a hammer. And it pops the keepers right off. But you have to hold a lot of pressure down with your hand. Otherwise, when the spring comes up, this will come off just enough to let those keepers fly out. So you have to hold a lot of pressure on it, but there's my keepers. Here's my valve springs. And then I stuffed a rag in the combustion chamber to hold pressure on the valves so that whenever you press down on it, it's not also pressing down on the valve. So, and then I'm keeping them all in order of how I took them out. And these valve stem seals just pop out, and that's it. And part of the reason I'm doing this is to clean the heads, but the other part is because these valve stem seals are going to be changed. Since I'm taking it this far, I'm putting valve stem seals in it. And you can tell that these things are worn because some of the valves, like this one right here, are actually wet from oil. So they definitely needed to be replaced. I've got me a parts cleaner, which is basically half water, half super clean, and just let it soak overnight and come out here and scrub it. You would be amazed what that super clean stuff cleans off. So I just get me a cheapy set of scrubber brushes for $1 or $2. Just go to town, and that super clean will even take the oil coating out of the aluminum. It's not even gold anymore after it soaks in the not super clean, purple power. This will turn aluminum color again after it soaks in that stuff for a night or two. So keeping the progress going. We got the whole bottom end of the motor put together, and I have the heads all cleaned up as good as I'm going to make them. And I have just lapped in all of these valves. All of these valves have been officially lapped in to their seats. Now they're married to their positions. They're a little sticky like that because I've got assembly lube on them. But best I can tell, the clearances are perfect on those. I'm not even sure I had to lap them in because, well, the exhaust valves, I definitely needed to lap them in because there's some pitting on these exhaust valves. Let's see if you can see this. Let's see. Just a tiny little bit of pitting after I cleaned them up. And whenever I lap them in, that pitting goes away. So I definitely on the exhaust valves needed to lap them in. But now I've got the heads cleaned, scrubbed as good as they're gonna get. I've got this valve lapped in. My spring compressor's still not here yet, dadgummit. It was supposed to be here yesterday, but I guess I won't get it till Monday. So I'm just gonna focus on getting things clean. Got the front cover cleaned up. This thing was terrible. It was just gooped up. I got the motor mounts cleaned up, got the oil filler cleaned up, the neck cleaned up, valve covers cleaned up, and I got a coat of paint on this one. I've got to get another can of paint, but I'm painting them both red. I'm not exactly sure what they're made out of. They've got like this gray paint on them, but they're like, it's shiny underneath there, so I guess it's some kind of pot metal. But anyway, I really like how it's going to have red valve covers, then it's going to have the aluminum finish of the heads, then the engine block is going to be red, and then the brand new oil pan has a fresh coat of black paint on it. So, and then the front cover is going to be that aluminum color, and then the intake manifold for the supercharger is aluminum. But then I'm going to take the supercharger and I'm going to paint it red. So I think it's going to be a really cool color combination. You know, half the people in the world are probably going to hate it, but oh well. So what I'm working on right now is, since I've got this one all lapped in, I'm going to resurface. Resurface is probably not a good word. I'm going to prepare the surface here and get all of this old gasket material off. So take my razor blade, go over it really quick. Then I got my feeler gauge and a straight edge, and I'm going to take and make sure that the head is perfectly flat everywhere, or at least within spec. Then what I did is, this is a sanding block, but it had a handle on it, and it's a flexible metal. So what I did is I just took a block of wood to put on it so that whenever I put pressure on it, it's even pressure no matter where I go. Because the way that thing was before, if I got right here, that piece of metal would bow a little bit. So this is going to make sure that I'm sanding it perfectly flat, which is basically what they do in the machine shop. When they resurface aluminum heads, if you're not having it decked, basically what they do is have a big giant belt sander on a hard table, and they just put it on there level and let it surface it. So, oh, one thing I did want to note, I am not replacing freeze plugs. I'm a little bit superstitious about this, but they're kind of corroded a little bit. So what I did on this one, and I'm going to do it to the other one, is I taped off the area all the way around it, and then I hit this with black engine enamel. And I did it to this one over here as well. And I just want to protect those to keep them from getting any worse than they already are. They were covered with mud, so they didn't really have the opportunity to rust. But I'm going to hit those, all of those freeze plugs, there's only 2 per head, with black engine enamel just to keep them from rusting. All of the freeze plugs on the block are covered with red engine enamel, except the ones that go in the back where the bell housing goes. But I'm not too worried about those. They don't have a speck of rust on them at all, and they're pretty much sealed from the atmosphere anyway. But I might hit those with a thing of black engine enamel anyway. So, all right, back to work. This is why I left the valves in there. Little granules of the sandpaper are falling off, and tiny little bits of dust of aluminum are falling off also. And I don't really want all that crap down inside the valve guide. So basically going to take it out back with a garden hose and flush the coolant chambers and the oil chambers, the valve seats and everything really, really good with water. Then I'm going to hit everything really good with brake clean. Then I'm going to put the valve springs on and the valve seals, valve stem seals. And then it will be ready to go back on. Just for comparison's sake, this is what one of the heads looks like after I've prepped it. This is what the other one looks like. And this is the only part that's actually got any like little scale or anything, like right here. This stuff, the black stuff, you can't even drag your fingernail on. So I'm really just giving it a fresh surface, fresh layer of aluminum to mate to. So I've already got these valves lapped in. This head is completely assembled, ready to go back on the block. This one I've got the valves lapped in. Now I'm going to resurface it and then clean it. Then it'll be ready to go. Head is all flushed out and got everything all cleaned up. Now what I've got to do is install these valve stem seals. And I'm just going to put a little tiny drop of this stuff on the inside, just to kind of help it slide over the valve seats a little bit easier. Nothing too major. It's not actually designed to have a whale in it. So I've got that and a 5/8 socket. And the 5/8 socket seems to fit over these pretty good. So there you go. Slides down on there really easy. You just got to do that for 16 of them. I actually started to install these, and then I had second thoughts, because some of these compressed easier than others. And the motor's got 160,000 miles on it. So I started poking around a little bit and figured out that the springs for this are only about $3 a piece if you get factory replacement ones. So I ordered some, and they're gonna be here tomorrow. And what I'm doing for a spring compressor is this tool. I don't even know. I just went on eBay and Googled spring compressor because I was looking for those big C clamps that you push forward, and they had those, but this was $15 shipped, literally 15 shipped. And I was like, well, I mean, I don't have to do it for a living. I just need to do a few of these springs, so as long as it gets me through that, it saves me a trip to the machine shop. So this is what it comes with. It's a big C clamp, basically, with a couple different sizes, and you basically put one of these on the spring, or on the valve, and one of these on the spring keeper, which this one right here figures. Anyway, my particular keepers happen to fit just about perfect down inside there. Got the new springs today. There is actually a noticeable difference just squeezing them in your hand. So boy, I'm glad I popped for that 50 bucks. But look at this crap. One spring came in this box. This 16 springs right here is crap. And they are Melling engine parts. I don't know. I don't really care about the brand. They're just factory replacement. Get this set up. Get it fixed on the bottom of the valve, spring, then the retainer. All right. Then the keepers. These are actually magnetic, which I kind of like. And they are chamfered. They're tapered a little bit so that the thinner chamfer goes down, or draft, or whatever you want to call it. Those guys locked in there. They'll kind of, I've got a dab of that assembly lube on them to hold them in place, because while they are magnetic, all the vibration and stuff of me messing around pops them off. And when you unscrew it, you kind of have to make sure that you've got it lined up. It doesn't line up perfectly all on its own. And there we go. My little $15 tool here works like a champ. Now I just got to do that 15 more times. I am attempting to clean out the threads of these bolt holes. So just to prove these are legit ARP, now we're going to put in the ARPs. Now I'm going to measure and make sure they're all run down roughly the same. I'm thinking that's going to look pretty good. Everybody and their mom has put the high output cam, but nobody has put the high output pistons. Well, spins nice and free, so here we go. Moment of truth. See if everything I've done pays off. Got the multi-layer steel head gaskets. As far as I can tell, they're identical. As far as I can tell, they're identical for both sides. There's nothing unique about them. So maybe it doesn't want to fit. There we go. All right, let's get the head freshly cleaned. Be very careful not to damage the mating surface with these studs. Make sure nothing is pink. Plot twist. I found a set of high output cams. Ooh. They should be here in a few days. That's why the cams are not already installed. So, didn't really intend on it, but whenever I decided to go with these springs, the new springs, trying to figure out which springs I should use or whatever, I found out that basically the high output cams drop straight in. No modification, nothing. A lot of people don't even take the heads off. A lot of people just drop them straight on. Same springs, you can look it up. The part number springs, the factory replacement part numbers are the same for both engines, the high output and the normal one. So, guess what I did? I went and looked on eBay. Lo and behold, there was a guy selling high output cams. So, they're on their way and they will be here in a few days. So, I'm extremely happy about that. So this is going to be a fun truck whenever I get it done. If I ever get it done. I'm working on this every evening, every Saturday, every chance I get. But it's just time consuming. Like, just putting the lube on these studs is taking, what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that? You know, the spring install was 30 or 40 minutes. Not to mention all the research I'm having to do and all the trips to the parts store and all that kind of stuff. So this is a time-consuming process. It's saving me a crap ton of money, don't get me wrong, but boy is it time-consuming. Okay, so had to go look up my torque specs and torque sequence, but got all that stuff figured out now. Now we're trucking. So it's basically hand tight, then it's 15 foot-pounds, 35 foot-pounds, and then 90 foot-pounds. And at step 2, you tighten these 4 tiny bolts. Moment of truth number 2. Hope if I put the head gasket the right direction. The world's most nerve-wracking thing. Ooh, if I drop that cylinder head, it's probably dust. It's probably just useless.